indicator, which first of all is annoying. I did shut off anything that would damage the plane due to excessive speed or anything like that. I turned off a lot of things, you know, even most of the terrain and graphics in order to not make it too choppy for you guys for the recording, because I know it's already choppy to begin with slightly. Now you can play around with your extra views. Like I always have this extra view open with either the tower view, or I'll do like a locked spot view here, like that. So I can just see the plane. It's not really a big deal, you don't have to do that. But maybe we'll leave it on that until we're starting our approach, and we'll change that back to a tower view. You can also do so by pressing, I think it's A. Yeah, oh no, S, I'm sorry, S on your keyboard. And as you can see, it's switching through different view types. And then if on each view type, if you hit A, it will switch. Oh, there's a 737-800 behind us. This is like a flyby view right here. Which is always fun. Overhead view. Tower view. Different towers. So there's a lot of different views, and then just to get back, you just hit F9 to get back to your virtual cockpit. F10 brings you to this cockpit view, which is not the virtual cockpit. It's just, that's how the cockpit looks. A little easier to interact with all of the buttons and everything when you're in the F10 view. The F9 view looks like, you know, looks more like a real cockpit. You can look around. Oh yeah, we should balance out this yoke. Which, if it doesn't automatically do it for you, you just bring it back to about center. That way, if and when you have to disengage autopilot, it's not all of a sudden, you're not all of a sudden flying straight up in the air. To look around, you hit the space bar and hold the space bar, and then move your mouse around, so that way you can look around. You can see out your windows, see behind you, see the co-pilot if there was one. Apparently I'm flying this one solo. You can see this is the radio stack right here. If you zoom in on it, I mean, it really is tuned to all of the numbers that are in the actual radio stack. This is our throttle quadrant right here. MFD display right here, multifunction display, and then also our engine instruments and crew alert system is right here. And there you go. Alright, first of all, they're telling us to descend and maintain 9,000. We've got to acknowledge what they said.
Heading 030, descend and maintain 9,000. Expect vectors visual, runway 4, left, approach, southwest, 1912.
Okay, now they're giving us a visual approach on runway 4 left. I'd like to change that so that we can do our ILS approach, but we're going to start our descent, and we're going to switch to 030, which is what they told us to do, and press heading select now. We can switch this to nav, since on our ILS approach we're going to want that on nav. Change our auto brake to, yeah, they're telling us to expedite our turn to 030, but we're doing that. We can turn off our turn down our speed to about 250. Oh, and we're going to make sure that we turn on our fasten seatbelt lights. Again, we'll turn on our landing lights. We'll do it now, just to make sure they're all taken care of. And now we're heading to 030, and we're slowing down. We've got our brakes set for our approach. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try to select a new runway and a new approach. So we'll start with the runway first. I know that 4 right has ILS capabilities, so we'll go ahead and select that. Request runway from control.
Boston Center, southwest 1912. Request runway 4 right. Southwest 1912. You are advised 7 miles southwest. Turn left heading 030. Expect vectors visual.
I'm going to turn this down a little bit more as we start our ascent. Alright, now they're telling us, I'm going to tell them to stand by so we can request an approach as well, because they're actually telling us that we can have runway 4 left, but in order to get to it, we need to take the 4 right approach using the visual approach. We don't want to do that. We want to select an ILS for runway 4 right and vectors to final approach course, and then request approach from control.
Southwest 1912 would like ILS, runway 4 right approach, vectors to final. Southwest 1912, you advise 2 miles southwest, turn right heading 060, expect vectors ILS, runway 4 right approach.
Alright, so now they've given us our ILS approach to 4 right, so we're going to acknowledge that.
Right heading 060.
And they told us to head to 060.
Runway 4 right approach.
So we're heading there now.
1912.
And I'm just going to explain it real quick, and you're not going to see it on your on the screen here, but if you click on this button here, it's going to bring up the map. And then when you do bring up the map, you can move over to the airport that you're going to. Click on it, and then bring up the information regarding each runway. So runway 4 right has an ILS frequency of 110.3 and a heading of 036. 110.3, 036. So we're going to set our course to 036. And we're going to set our nav radio to 110.3. Switch that over. We'll also switch the nav 2 as well, just in case we need to utilize the secondary navigational radio. You shouldn't have to do that, but it's good to do just in case, just to be safe. We'll switch that all over. And turn on the transponder for nav 1, and it will tell you when you're in range of that frequency. So we are all set up now for our approach. We are currently descending. We're at 14,000 feet, descending to 9,000 at a heading of 060. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our GPS to type in our approach for Boston. That will just help us better see on the screen if we're lined up appropriately with the correct runway. So you click on PROC, which is short for procedures, and then it's already on select approach, so you hit enter, and then you can see all the different approaches are automatically in there. You're going to select the one that you're utilizing, which is, in this case, it's ILS 04 right. So you hit enter. You want vectors to final, and then hit load, and it's going to show you how far away you are from these particular locations. And then you go ahead and click on procedures again, activate vectors to final approach, hit enter, and then you can see now VTF is written here, and then MILTT is a location indicator to line you up with the runway, the correct runway. You always need to respond to anything that air traffic control gives you, whether it's switching over to a new controller, or an assigned altitude, or an assigned heading, or an assigned runway, or what have you. You always have to acknowledge it, and of course follow it. Okay, so this is saying that, oops, sorry, wrong button here. This is saying that we're 5 minutes away or so to the area that we want to be in for lining up for runway 4 right.
Bradley approach, southwest 1912, is at 10,500, descending 9,000.
Now you can see where my plane is located right here on the map. I zoomed out a little bit, but they're going to have me turn eventually to get myself lined up with this little purple line. This purple line will line us right up with runway 4 right, and that white line is actually runway 4 right. So, and then these blue lines right here are the airspace for Boston's Logan International Airport. Alright, they're instructing me to turn right to a 090, which I'm going to do and also acknowledge.
Right heading 090, Southwest 1912.
So,
Southwest 1912.
all right.
Descend and maintain 1000.
They're now telling me to descend and maintain 1,800, which I'm going to do right now and acknowledge.
Descend and maintain 1800.
And we're going to slow way down.
1912.
Go to about 170 knots.
Turn right heading 125.
All right, turn right heading 125. Make sure you acknowledge.
Turn right heading 125. Southwest 1.
And we're going to switch our MFD display to approach. That beeping you hear means that we are actually receiving information from nav1. So that means that we are in range of nav1 right now. You can turn that off to prevent the headache. So at this point, we're all lined up, or we're all set. We're ready to approach runway 4 left. And we're about 4 minutes away from getting the call to line ourselves up with runway 4 right. So as we're doing that, we are going to make sure that we are actually coming down on our speed even more. So we're going to actually increase our flaps to about 5 degrees down, or sorry, 7 degrees down. The landing gear is still up. Once we get the call to activate our final approach course, we will drop the flaps to full, and we will hit the gear knob, which is actually just you hit G, or you could hit it yourself here manually. That's what this lever is right here. It's the landing gear knob. And otherwise, we are all set. So we're on our nav switch. Once we get that final approach turn, we're going to click on approach hold switch, but we're not going to do that yet, obviously. Until then, we're just going to keep our heading based on whatever they tell us to do at air traffic control, which right now is heading of 125, and they want us to decrease our altitude to 1,800, which currently we're at about 4,800 and descending. That's pretty much it. Once we're on our final approach course as well, we will make sure that our there it is.
Turn left heading 065. Descend and maintain 1,800. Cleared ILS. Runway 4 right approach. Maintain 1,800 until established on the localizer. Contact Boston Tower on 132.225.
All right, so we're going to acknowledge what they just told us.
Turn left heading 065. Descend and maintain 1,800. Cleared ILS. Runway 4 right approach. Maintain 1,800 until established. Tower on 132.22.
Max out our flaps and gear down.
912.
Tune to Boston Tower and contact.
Boston Tower, southwest 1912.
2,500.
900 miles southwest, inbound ILS, runway 4, right approach. Southwest 1912, Boston Tower, fly straight in, runway 4, right, altimeter 2,902.
Acknowledge the pattern entry.
Runway 4, right, southwest 1912.
All right, so we're on course for the approach, so we'll go ahead and hit the approach hold switch. We're going to level off at about 1,800 feet, which is what we're doing right now. We're slowing down to about 140 knots. We're actually going to make that about 137. We can do that right here. And in order to find out where all of these speeds are located, as far as like your landing approach speed and everything, you can hit Shift F10 on planes that have it. Like the planes that come with the game all have that information in Shift F10. you would hit Shift F10, and as you can see, it brings up mission briefing, and then you click on reference, and it will tell you everything about that plane in that section, but this particular plane doesn't have it. So we're now leveled off. Keep an eye on our GPS, and we are slowly moving towards that purple line right now. Once we reach that purple line, the approach course should bring us on home right into 4 right. And I'm going to shut off our heading selector of 065. We should be able to stay straight right on course to the approach, and then once we reach that purple line, it should turn the plane towards the runway, which we're coming up on momentarily. So I actually like to do this, make this a little bit bigger, like the top of the screen, and we'll back it out a little bit. I like to be able to see the tower view of us coming in, and I don't know, I think it looks cool. So we're pretty good. Now as far as our ILS goes, this right here is our glide slope indicator, and right here is our ILS indicator, which will tell us if we're lined up. If it's right here on center, it means we're lined up, and this right on center means that we're lined up with the glide slope. Alright, we should be starting to turn momentarily. Your MFD as well will tell you, multifunction display, which is right here. That right here and this right here are the same thing as this. So you can fly with both open, but all that information is right here on the primary flight display as well, or PFD. Alright, there's the turn. So the plane is now orienting itself to line up with the runway and the ILS approach. You can see these two red lights are the 204 heading runways. We are going to be landing on the right side one. And the ILS will bring us right in. What's going to happen is on this primary flight display, this is going to start to go down. This little purple dot here is going to start going down. Once it reaches here and we're level on the glide slope, the altitude hold switch will actually automatically disengage, and at that point the plane will be oriented towards the ILS, and it will bring itself down. So you can start, it's starting to move now. It will start bringing the plane down, heading towards the runway. Now, with a significant amount of traffic on, there's always a chance of a go-around situation or a missed approach situation. If that does happen, you want to disengage your autopilot and your auto throttle, and you want to throttle up to full. Pull up, reset yourself to about 200 knots, and then reset, your altitude and everything to, whatever it is that they give you. But you can see we're starting to line up now with the runway, and now the altitude switch has been disengaged automatically. We are on glide slope, and that's our final clearance to land. To acknowledge that. Still lining up. Now, when we touch down, we're going to disengage the autopilot. In just a couple of seconds here, we're actually going to be disengaging the auto throttle. As you can see, we're up at about 144 knots now. We need to bring that down slightly. Once we're right around 137 or so, we're going to disengage the auto throttle, and it should stay right at about that until we touch down. But once we touch down, we're going to hit F1, or just before touchdown, we'll hit F1 to bring our throttle back to 0%. And then once we're on the ground, we're going to tap F2 a few times to activate the plus 25% reverse thrusters. So we're currently at 1,000 feet. We're on glide slope, and we're on our ILS approach as well. And you can see the glide slope indicator is like half white, half red. That's exactly what you want. You want 2 lights red, 2 lights white when you're on your approach. That's if you're doing a visual approach. With the ILS approach, it will automatically do that for you, so you don't have to worry about it. This is obviously the easiest way to land is using the ILS systems. And we're at 137 now, so we're going to disengage our auto throttle. And as we approach, once we're at about 100 feet, we'll disengage the throttle, bring that down to 0%, which will bring us down onto the ground. Looking good, looking good. We're all lined up.
300.
Still on glide slope. All right, we've made the runway, so I'm going to go ahead and disengage our throttle. And we'll hit Z once we're right on the ground.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
And we're on the ground, so we'll go ahead and deactivate, push down on the yoke, activate our reverse thrusters and our brakes, and the warning light that you heard, or warning whistle that you heard, was actually shutting off the autopilot. And we're utilizing our brakes and our reverse thrusters right now to slow ourselves down. We will get instruction in just a moment to exit the runway when we're able to.
Southwest 1912, turn next taxiway.
And we're just about stopped now, so once we get to almost stopped, hit F1. That brings your engines back up to about to 0%. It brings the throttle up to 0%. You can hear it, like you can hear the thing disengage as well, the reverse thrusters. So that's pretty much it. Now we're on the ground. We're going to turn off of the taxiway. As you can see, the yoke is actually turning, which isn't the way that it normally works in real life. In real life, you turn using the rudder pedals, but in this, I am using my, I'm not using a joystick or anything. Alright, so we acknowledge the ground handoff. We're now off the runway, so we're safe for any incoming or outgoing traffic. Tuned to Boston ground. Request taxi to the gates.
Southwest 1912, taxi to the gate. Southwest 1912, taxi to the gate. Echo 4, using taxiway Yankee, runway 4 right, runway 15 right, Quebec, Alpha.
Acknowledge your taxi clearance.
Echo.
And if you turn on progressive taxi, well, it looks like we're actually going to have to do an about face. As you can see on the top, the yellow line is actually coming out of the back of the plane, which means we'd have to turn all the way around in order to line up with the assigned approach, or not the approach, the assigned taxi clearance that we got. And then you just play with F3 and F2 to increase your throttle slightly when needed. When you're on the ground, and that's pretty much it. So you can see we're on the ground at Logan International Airport after our flight from John F. Kennedy International in New York. Turn around just to show you guys what the oh, I'm like off the taxiway here, but that's all right. And you just follow the yellow line all the way to the gate. I'm not going to bother doing that right now. I'm actually going to hit F1 to stop the throttle. Gonna engage the parking brake, which is control period. Stop the plane altogether. Show you guys how to shut it down. And you bring up your overhead quadrant and your throttle quadrant. And oh, actually, in this plane as well, there's a little switch over here for wing lights to shut them off. We'll go into our overhead panel. We'll shut off the panel lights. Fasten seatbelts, no smoking signs off. Turn off our strobes. Turn off our landing lights. If you did want a taxi, you just turn on your taxi lights right there, but turn those off. We're going to turn off the hydraulic pumps for the engines, turn off the generators for the engines, and we're going to go ahead and kill the engines by flipping and toggling the master starter switch. You're going to hear it shut down, and you hit off on that, and you can hear it shutting down right now. And that's it. So we're on the ground. Hope you guys had fun watching this, as much fun as I had bringing it to you. And if I get a lot of likes and views here, I will bring you guys more with different planes, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining me here on the Sonnen channel for this tutorial on how to fly a 737-800. And please be sure to comment below with any questions or concerns that you have, and I'll hopefully be able to answer them for you. So thanks again, and have a great day. We'll see you later.